City Council meeting of May the 13th, 2024. If you please remember to silence your phones or other devices. And for anybody who'd like to speak at the open public period or any of the items, if you please fill out a speaker card to just help us keep track. And the cards are out in the lobby. The cards are also up here at the speaker's podium. So we just, all we need is your name, really. That would be very helpful. Thank you. As we traditionally do, if you would please join me for a moment of silence and then follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. But please join me in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. If you would please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We're going to begin this evening with a couple of proclamations. And the first one is Emergency Medical Services Week, and Vice Mayor Wurtzel will handle that for us. Thank you.
Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of the Maitland Fire Rescue Department engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. So, therefore, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, and in the Mayor, John Lown, the City of Maitland, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2024, as Emergency Medical Services Week, with the EMS theme, EMS Week, honoring our past, forging the future in the City of Maitland, Florida, and encourage all citizens to publicly recognize and express appreciation to all members of the Maitland Fire Rescue Department for their care and dedication to the citizens of Maitland. Chief Moore, you want to say a couple words?
Sure. Thank you. Vice Mayor, Mayor, Council. I just want to say thank you for the support you provide for us all the time. I couldn't do it without the men and women in the back row who every day just step up above and beyond to provide extraordinary care to the residents and visitors of the city. So couldn't be more proud. I just want to say thank you again and appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Ward, thank you. Thank you to everybody taking some time out of your day for the Emergency Medical Services Department to come and join us. Thank you for being here, and I've never felt more safe in my life right now. If anything goes wrong, we're in good hands. So, thank you. We have another proclamation, and Councilmember Mike Wild will handle that one for us. Thank you.
two weeks of the same time period. So public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, emergency management, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Maitland. These infrastructure facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are federally mandated first responders, engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and wastewater systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And such public works service could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of the public works professionals, engineers, managers, supervisors, and employees of the city of Maitland. And is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Maitland to gain knowledge and maintain ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works, first responders, and public works programs in their respective communities. And the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. And the American Public Works Association has selected Advancing Quality of Life for All as its theme for the 2024 National Public Works Week. Now therefore, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, and as Laura said, with John Lowndes up there for us, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2024 as Public Works Week in the city of Maitland, Florida, and encourage the community to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protecting our health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. And I agree with that. My wife teaches a government class, and I say to her that we have to teach that there's so much in the city that relies on public works and everything that public works does that I think everybody takes for granted in the city. They just expect it to work, but to make it work takes a lot of effort by all, and we do a great job in Maitland, so thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to say thank you on behalf of the department for your continued support, and also invite each of you next week. We're having our employee rodeo, as we have the last few years. I think everybody got their shirts, so it starts at 8 on Wednesday the 22nd. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Karen. All right, and thank you, Kim Tracy. We have get down to the business of the council. We have the ordinance regarding non-exclusive natural gas franchise. We have a public hearing on that. And Lori, would you please read the ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1425, an ordinance of the city of Maitland, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Maitland, Florida, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Lake Apopka Natural Gas District for a 10-year period, approving the natural gas distribution franchise agreement between the city of Maitland and Lake Apopka Natural Gas District, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Sure, just real briefly. As we discussed at the last meeting, the Lake Apopka Natural Gas District serves several cities in Lake and Orange County. A very small segment of their service area is located in the city of Maitland, east of Forest City Road and south of Maitland Boulevard, where we have our new standalone emergency room. That user has requested natural gas service from the district, and they have agreed to serve. In order for that to happen, we need to prepare a franchise agreement, much as we do with TECO for the rest of the city. So this franchise agreement is mirrored after their other franchise agreements and sort of pulls from what we have with TECO too, to make sure that everything's on a level playing field. As we talked about last meeting, there were some changes. This was sort of put together at the last minute because of the time frames that the district had and the impending certificate of occupancy, the occupancy of the emergency room. So there were a couple changes that took place between first and second reading. As I told you about last time, one is the indemnification language. It was added to protect the city's sovereign immunity. That's in Section 4 of the agreement. In Section 5 of the agreement, the city's current insurance requirements were substituted for what was initially there. So those are provided in the staff report, one with the underlined version and the other is a clean version. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer. If not, Brent Haywood is again with us tonight. He's the general manager and CEO of Lake Pocta Natural Gas District.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any questions of Mark? Thank you for joining us again, Mr. Haywood. Let's open it to the public. Does anybody from the public have any comment on this item? Or franchise agreement? All right, seeing none, let's close the public period. If there's any further discussion, if not, the motion will be in order.
I'll move to adopt ordinance number 1425, granting a non-exclusive natural gas franchise agreement with Lake Pocta Natural Gas District as presented.
Second.
There's already been a motion and a second. Can you read the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel?
Aye.
Councilmember Wild?
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes?
Aye. Unanimous. Approved. Again, thank you, Mr. Haywood. All right. Is there any old business, Mark?
No, sir.
Okay. We're rolling right into the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything off of the consent agenda? All right. Does anybody from the public have any comments on consent agenda items number 2 through 14? All right. Seeing no public comment on those, we will close the public period. And if anybody has any discussion, we can do that, or none, then the motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Lori, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wurzel?
Aye.
Councilmember Wild?
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Mayor Lowndes?
Aye. It is unanimously approved. Okay, now is the public period. It's the period when anybody can get up and say anything they would like about anything that's not otherwise on the agenda, because those will all have their own little public periods. But a general public period. Does anybody like to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda? All right, Mr. Taker.
I would like to give everybody else a fair shot first. As you know, I'm Stacy Larson. I am the director of the Maitland Public Library. And since you're only meeting once in the month of May, this is my opportunity to talk to you now about the summer reading program, which will launch before you all reconvene in June. So we have a great program set up for our kids and our grown-ups this year. It's going to launch on Thursday, May 30th at 2 o'clock with our kids kickoff. It'll be a lovely magic show. It is the Dragon Adventures show. It's going to be a good time. There's no registration required for that. And our adults will kick off on Sunday, June 2nd at 2 o'clock with our annual summer reading tea. We have events scheduled every single week in July on Thursdays at 2 o'clock, except for July 4th because July 4th. And then adult events happening on weekends and Tuesday evenings. So there's plenty for everybody on our calendar. I invite everybody to check out our website. There's a little guy holding a book that says Summer Reading. It's got lots of information for both kids and adults. We will be using Reader Zone this year to track your reading, so there's information there on how to log into the app. The challenges for both kids and, again, adults. I want to remind the adults that they can do summer reading too. You don't have to still be in school for that. We are also looking forward to the return of a crowd favorite. Every year we do it. Well, the last couple of years we have done it. Your first responders will be attending the library 3 times this summer for cookies and story time with first responders from both the police department and the fire department. And then we all adjourn to the park for touching trucks. So we get massive crowds for this. We are calling it this year, it's Trucks and Tales. So that's actually going to start on Wednesday, May 29th. That does take registration, so you have to sign up on our website, because otherwise we violate fire code with our room. So we have a limit to how many people can come for the story time. You don't want to violate fire code with the fire department in the room. And then, of course, everybody can come touch trucks over at the park across the street. So thank you. Sign up for summer reading. Lunch is May 30th, June 2nd, depending whether you are a kid or a grown-up. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. Anybody else have any comments for us this evening? Okay, seeing none, let's close the public period. And we are moving into our decisions for the evening. There are three very similar ordinances to be dealt with. Maybe we start with Dan, if you could introduce all three, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If it's okay with you, I'm going to introduce them all at the same time. We'll obviously be voting on them individually, but do all the introductions at once. So, as you recall, back in February, staff brought a discussion item regarding a waterfront structure that was located on 70 Minnehaha Circle, owned by the Minnehaha Shores HOA. And during the review of that, staff discovered that properties at 50, 70, and 90 Minnehaha Circle all had waterfront structures that crossed over the property lines onto the City of Maitland property. So council directed us to move forward in finding a way to transfer the properties. The first step was doing a resolution. This is required by our charter. So we brought back to you on February 26th, the Resolution 3/2024 that classified the land as government facility other. That category allows us to transfer land or sell it off or whatever we need to do. So at that meeting, council also determined that the ownership should be transferred to the adjacent property owners and the HOA through quitclaim deeds via ordinances, again required by the charter that we do this through an ordinance. So this is a map of the property. There's three properties that are involved here. This is 50 Minnehaha Circle, 70, and 90. So these are the three legal descriptions of the land that we'd be quitclaiming deed for. So what staff is recommending is that we introduce Ordinance 1426 approving the transfer of city-owned property to the property owners of 50 Minnehaha Circle through a quitclaim deed and set the public hearing and action date for June 10th, 2024.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Does anybody have any questions on this, Dan? Okay. Well, let's take them serially. Lori, would you read the ordinance title?
Yes. Ordinance number 1426, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, authorizing the conveyance of real property as described herein, approving a quitclaim deed herein to attach, setting forth the terms for conveyance of this land, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Let's open it to public comment period. Does anybody in the public have anything to say about this ordinance? Looks like we have no takers on that one, so we'll close the comment period. And if there's no further discussion up here, a motion would be in order on the first ordinance.
I'll move to introduce ordinance 1426, approving the transfer of city-owned property to the property owners of 50 Minnehaha Circle through a quitclaim deed and set the public hearing and action date for June 10th, 2024.
Mine shorter. Second.
All right, motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Mayor Lund.
Aye. Okay, approved on first reading. Let's go to the next ordinance. Laura?
Ordinance number 1427, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, authorizing the conveyance of real property as described herein, approving a quitclaim deed herein to attach, setting forth the terms for conveyance of this land, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Does everybody have any comment on this item? Open up the public comment period here. And seeing none, we'll close it again and bring it back to council for further discussion or a motion.
I'll make a motion if there's no discussion. Move to introduce ordinance number 1427, approving the transfer of city-owned property to the property owners of 70 Minnehaha Circle through a quitclaim deed and set public hearing and action date for June 10th, 2024.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Mayor Lam.
Aye. Okay, approved on first reading. Let's go to the third one. Lori, would you please read the ordinance title?
Ordinance number 1428, an ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, authorizing the conveyance of real property as described herein, approving a quitclaim deed herein to attach, setting forth the terms for conveyance of this land, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Let us open the public comment period on this one. See nobody who wants that. We'll close the public comment period. And if there's no further discussion, the motion would be.
Well, I just want to say something. I want to say that, you know what, I'm really glad, like all of us here, you know, we really decided to do the right thing. Even though this is our property, it was given to us, we know, we were smart enough to know that there's nothing we can ever do with it. And we ask our citizens all the time for so much, and, you know, and it's nice to be able to finally just give back, you know, give something to the citizens. So I just want to say that I think we've done a good job in handling this, and I'm glad for everybody at 50, 70, and 90 Minnehaha. So good for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
In that spirit, I will move to introduce an ordinance approving the transfer of city-owned property to the property owners of 90 Minnehaha Circle through a quitclaim deed and set the public hearing and action date for June 10th, 2024. That one didn't have it didn't say in the motion, but to introduce ordinance 1428.
Second.
Okay.
Great.
Motion and a second. Laura, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Wurzel.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Mayor Lam.
Aye. It is approved as well, and we'll see everybody on June 10th. I can see smooth sailing on that. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We have one more decision, and it deals with the Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board. Lori, would you please introduce the
Yes, the CRAB, also known as the Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board, is comprised of one resident member appointed by City Council and 2 members appointed by the Orange County Board of Commissioners. Resident members are eligible to serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms in accordance with Section 5.06 of the City Charter. Gray Binford has served 1 term. She has confirmed her desire to continue to serve and is eligible, and her updated appointment information was attached and included in the packet. The council is requested to appoint a resident member to serve a 3-year term beginning May 2024 and ending April 2027.
Okay. Does anybody have any nominations for the CRAB, the poorly named CRAB?
I would say, you know, if she wants to jump back on the boat and do it, I would just, she's done a great job. Let's keep her.
Okay. One nomination for Ms. Benford to stay. Anybody else nominate? If not, then is there?
I'll second the nomination.
There we go. And
Author.
there we go. We did it. Congratulations, Ms. Benford. You are reappointed to the CRA-AB. And for our final act this evening, we will be looking at the capital improvements plan 5-year look. So, Mark, would you like to introduce that for us? And walk us through it?
Yes. As we began our discussions on the 5-year capital plan at the strategic planning session, we ran out of time, so I wanted to take tonight to pick up on where we left off. and then continue the discussion into the individual 5-year budgets. I know this is hard to read up here. This is the same sheet that was provided to you, strategic planning. What I wanted to do is sort of go through a little refresher of what we started talking about before we got into the 5-year plans at strategic planning. So we want to take a little bit different. We have to take it really a little bit differently this year. Take a look at our current 2024 general fund capital project budget, because as we're moving closer and closer toward construction on many of these, this entire table is included in the current capital budget. Our final engineering estimates or our contractors' estimates are coming in higher than we have budgeted for. So the what we so what we have here is what we have budgeted for and how we can make these projects work. The projects above the black line are what we consider priority projects. They're either considered priority projects because there was grant funding involved with them, and of course they have been on our plan for the last several years as priorities that the City Council had determined were the top priorities for the city. The projects below the black line are projects that we're having to use to draw money to fund the priority projects. So they're all in the budget. So what we're proposing is that the projects below the line sort of matriculate into the 5-year capital budget, as we'll go over here in a minute, and the projects above the line get funded within this year's budget. So what I did at the strategic planning session is I went from top to bottom. I think it might make a little more sense to go bottom to top, what we are going to be pushing out and how that's going to be funded. Just so if anybody can't read it, the top priority projects for this year are the multi-use east-west connector trail. That's a trail from the bottom of the pedestrian bridge over on the west side of Lake Destiny that takes you over to Keller Road. That is really the last missing link of our east-west connector trail that runs from the Domrick area all the way over to the western city limits. This is the last link to complete that. We have $840,000 in grant funding for that. The Lake Avenue Boardwalk and Maitland Community Park Boardwalks, the next two projects, have been priorities for the last couple of years based upon the physical condition of those. Those need to be replaced, so we're proposing to fund those in this year's budget with the funds from the project below the line. Mohegan Sidewalks is already part of the Waterline project, which ties into the Deloraine Sidewalk project. It is part of the sewer project in Domrick Hills that provides a direct access from those neighborhoods into the middle and elementary school, so we kept that as a priority project. Bellamy Park improvements, so you can see that that's sort of a hybrid between the two. We had $200,000 budget for that. We're proposing to use $100,000 of that to fund priority projects and still keep $100,000 in there for the basketball court refurbishment that has been unplayable for the last couple of years since COVID, actually. So we want to keep that in there. The other portion of that funding was for the bathroom rehab, and what we're proposing to do there is to not postpone that project, but to use operating funds to at least get half of that bathroom open, so we can have a public facility open if we're going to have basketball courts there, to create a unisex bathroom there. So we should be able to do that with existing operating funds in our facilities division. Of course, the biggest priority project is the North Independence Lane project, which is coming in significantly higher than we had anticipated. So we're looking to fund that also this year. So below the line, what we're proposing to do is take the funds that were from the Keller Road improvements, which were going to be CRA funds that were going to be transferred into the general fund, because the CRA still owes the general fund a couple $1 million from the loan that they took out about 15 years ago. So we're proposing to decommit that and transfer that to the general fund and rebudget this in FY 26. Lake Lily improvements, we've budgeted $100,000 a year for improvements there. There's a long list of improvements there that include a couple different drainage projects, the upper parking lot reconstruction, landscaping and sidewalk improvements. So we're proposing to put those off this fiscal year and use some of that funding to fund the east-west trail. The Civilian beach improvements, there was $126,000 there. It was for the bathroom replacement. Ultimately, it was for the bathroom replacement and the improvements for the boat launch area, which is woefully inadequate for both of those. So we're proposing to rebudget for that next year, which I'll go over, go into the Parks and Rec Capital Improvements Program. Sandsburg Road, which has been part of our paving projects for the last couple years. We're proposing to prioritize that behind Keller Road in our paving projects, which will show up in our 5-year CIP. We've been able to do some patches on both of those roads to keep them adequate, but Keller Road is by far in worse condition than Sandsburg, so we're prioritizing that over the Sandsburg Road project. Then to make up the difference, we have sidewalk repair and maintenance and street repair and maintenance that's going into fund Mohican and the East-West Trail, as well as Lake Avenue Boardwalk and the Maitland Community Park Boardwalk. On those two, those are operational budgets. You'll see that in the second column, after the 2024 budget, you'll have actual expenses there. We have encumbered a significant amount of money in our repair and maintenance streets, so we're doing some street repaving already. We're just using the remainder of that to fund the capital project for the East-West Trail. So that sort of lays the groundwork. Our projects are coming in, even though we boosted what we thought from a budgetary standpoint, our numbers to cover those. Our projects are coming in 50 to 150% higher than we had anticipated. So we have to move some things around to keep our priority projects moving forward. So before I jump into the 5-year plan, is there any discussion on this or how those priorities sort of shifted out and how we used the money before we move forward? We're going to be able to talk about this again during the budgetary process when we start that in July, but certainly want to get a feel for where you are now so we can make sure we get the projects that are most important to you funded this year and work the remaining projects into the early years of the 5-year CIP.
So Mark, what is the 52,600 for at the Sevilla beach improvements if we're not doing the bathrooms? What does that do?
What column are you looking at?
Sevilla beach improvements?
That's money that's been expended. That's some design money that's been expended. Most everything in the actual expenses are covered outside of the operating budgets. The repair and maintenance are design funds that have already been encumbered.
Thank you. Just a question. I know, we have some money that we put aside for, future of library. And I'm just throwing this out, just throw it out there. If we needed to get into that and use a little bit of that to get these improvements done and get some of these projects done, is that a possibility?
That's a decision for City Council to make. Those are funds available. I think from a this year standpoint, though, from our project capacity, from us being able to manage projects, I think that even this year, these are going to be pretty aggressive. Because as you know, as some of you have gone through some of our sidewalk projects, they're very intensive working with each neighbor as you go down the sidewalk to make adjustments on the field, on the fly to accommodate individual needs, whether it's trees or sprinklers or driveways, whatever. It takes a lot of project management time for those, and we have a couple of those going on right now, obviously with the sewer projects going on right now, and then the Mohican sidewalks as they move forward. And then the boardwalk projects are going to be complex too in terms of the actual construction. So I think that, and then the biggest one, which is the Independence Lane project and the East-West Connector Trail, are going to be, basically going to be shutting down a good chunk of Lake Destiny and South Hall to make that happen. And Independence Lane North is just an important project to get right.
Yeah, and if I just wanted to do a reminder, and I think I'm right on this. If I'm not, I apologize. But you were saying that we could even do Keller this year if we wanted to,
yeah,
right?
because the design will be carrying us through to the end of this fiscal year, into next fiscal year. Yes.
There were some road improvements included in the east-west connector project, weren't there,
Yes.
as I recall?
Yes, Lake Destiny and Southall are going to be reconstructed. Southall for sure, Lake Destiny is going to get repaved, the Southall is going to be completely reconstructed as part of that trail project.
Okay, and we'll see all these during
Yep.
this summer during the budget process.
Yes, yeah, we'll go back over these, and obviously we can make changes, but we're moving aggressively forward with those above the thick black line. Okay.
Is there, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Never mind,
All
you're
right.
fine.
All right, so I wanted to jump into the individual capital fund budgets, the 5-year CIP, so you can sort of see how the projects that aren't going to be able to be funded. Oh, and just as a quick aside, as those projects come forward, as we get our contractor pricing, as they come forward for the approval of the contract, there'll be a budget amendment attached to them, and we'll have the solid cost. So there could be some small adjustments of where we pull the money from, but based upon our current costs and the estimates we have right now, that's what we're proposing. So you'll see something similar as those projects come forward, because they won't be coming forward.
I think I know the answer to this, but are they seeing any chance in the future that prices start coming down on
I think
goods?
our biggest hope and what we're hearing from our contractors is that prices have leveled off. I don't think we're going to be seeing pricing coming down anytime soon.
Okay.
Okay, if we can jump into the first 5-year plan, which is our traffic improvements. We did talk in some detail at the strategic planning session about the status of the Maitland area-wide study. We were hoping that study would be giving us some guidance on how to prioritize projects and what projects are feasible in the downtown area. Obviously, we're disappointed in where that is right now. We still hold out hope that through our partnership with the MPO, we'll be able to complete what we would consider complete that study, to give us a project list with some tangible costs and priorities. We're continuing discussions with DOT on that and their level of involvement with it, because as we talked about again, strategic planning, anything we're doing in the downtown area somehow is going to connect to their facility or facilities, and so we'll need to be getting permitting from them. So we need to make sure they're on board with what we're doing. Based upon the direction that we received at the strategic planning session, we are moving what we have of that study through the Transportation Advisory Board, and then it'll end up with you. I've reached out to District 5 to see what level of involvement they would like to have in that as we move through our process. I haven't heard back yet, so we'll see how that plays out. In 26, we're looking at the Horatio Avenue, Maitland Avenue mast arms. That's been in the 5-year plan for probably more than 5 years, because we were able to structurally improve that with some extra guying to get 4 or 5 years extra life out of it. It's in need of replacement now, and when we place it with the mast arms are obviously a more secure system. They're more resilient to storms, and they fit more in the character of our downtown area. So we're proposing that be done in 26 with some CRA funds. And then in 27 and 28, we're hopeful that regardless, we'll have a plan for pedestrian improvements, pedestrian traffic improvements in the downtown area. If not working with DOT, we'll certainly be working with the MPO, because they're willing to step up and fund the remainder of that project. So we'll have something under our belt so we can start funding the pedestrian traffic improvements in our downtown area, doing design and construction. So you see that carrying through 2028, with also Mechanic Street roadway improvement design scheduled in 2028, potentially with mobility funds to get that Mechanic Street, which is really our last unpaved road in the city, get that paved, to get the stormwater improvements with that, and then look at Mechanic Street construction in 2029. So that's how the traffic improvements have sort of filtered out. There's not a lot of change here. Everything is basically just moved up 1 year from what we saw last year. Any questions on traffic? not, we can jump to our pavement improvements, and pavement improvements include the road reconstructions that we've been talking about, that we just talked about, and that were in the 2024 capital plan. So you see in 2025, Keller Road South paving project is coming out of that. The $1.8 million you see there is really just the paving cost. There's really three components to the Keller Road project. One is the paving, the reconstruction of the road. There's also the trail improvement. There's a gap in the trail on South Keller Road, so we're going to be filling in that gap. You'll see that in the sidewalk money and sidewalk trail money. And there's also some significant stormwater improvements that need to take place there. So you'll see that in the stormwater fund. So we've broken that out into the actual fund that the funds will be coming from. So this is just the paving portion of it. And as I said, in 26, you'll see the Sandsburg Road project funded. That includes the repaving on the entire length of Sandsburg Road. And also, we've had some issues at some of the intersections where they've sunk in a little bit, so in those paver intersections, so that's going to be part of that too. So you get
Got the car in front of me tonight on the way here. Did one of these to go around it.
Yeah. So it's an issue that needs to be taken care of, and we've patched out there too, and we'll be patching in the next 2 years just to keep it dry. We are not initially the plan was to do some road narrowing, some traffic calming out there. Right now, we're going to, just because of the cost of everything, we're treating this as a repaving project. So we'll keep the curb line where it is and just do curb reconstruction and repaving where it is right now. In 27, as we get back into prioritizing on our pavement condition, streets throughout the city to keep our repaving program going. As you see on the right-hand column and the funding column, that those costs we show going up instead of what we were doing, is just keeping it at $500 or $1 million a year. Last year we bumped it up to $1 million. We are adding a cost escalator to that so we can keep up with the paving we need to keep up with. So you see that carry out through the end of 2029. So, any questions on the road repaving? Pretty straightforward. To jump to sidewalks, this is where things get a little bit trickier, I think, at least from my perspective as I look forward and put together the next year's budget and the subsequent budgets. In 2025, you see a couple projects stacked up there. First would be a design of Domerick Drive sidewalk from Choctaw to Sequoia, and if we would have funds, Sequoia up to Arapahoe. Then the Keller Road South Bike Trail, like I mentioned, this is where that shows up in the budget. That's the bike trail portion of the Keller Road project. Last week I had a meeting with one of our structural engineers to take a look at the Minnehaha Park Boardwalk.
Mark, I believe for a second, I think Robert had you in the right. Robert, were you going from?
Yeah,
Are we on sidewalk?
Yeah, we're down to the same.
we're on Park and Rec.
It might be my slides.
Yeah, if you get two slides ahead, it looked like that was the right one. Somebody was doing it and then it came back. I don't know.
No, down. Down.
There we go. I think this is it. Right?
This is stormwater. Stormwater.
Which are you reading?
We'll get there.
Sidewalks.
Water's on forward, need to go back. That is.
You're doing such a good job of explaining it, we probably don't even need slides. So
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So just ignore what's up there.
All right,
Listening
and I think there's a bigger question here that I'm going to get to in just a second. But from the Minnehaha Park Boardwalk, which we had $300,000 budgeted for in FY25, our structural engineers went out there and looked at it. Structurally, it's fine. It's sort of the same condition as Lake and Community Park Boardwalk. We can make some repairs and maintain that, do some board replacement, some rail replacement this year and next year, and then that would be something we would take a look at in 26. And then also in that year, we've been talking about South Lake Sibilia Drive sidewalk from Boynton Road to Cranes Court, which is a new sidewalk on the south side of Lake Sibilia. We budgeted $500,000 for that. It's a challenge in and of itself because you have property owners along there that are unwilling to provide easements to us. We have talked to our property acquisition specialist at Barfield for a proposal on that. So if we're going to move along those lines, it's going to be, I think the proposal is about $70,000 for him to engage those property owners to attempt to acquire easements. And then as you go through the rest of it, we have Domrick sidewalks in 26 and 27, and then in 28, 29, we revert back to our bike ped master plan and look at the priority sidewalks in there to continue the sidewalk discussion. I guess I should preface this by saying, in the last 7 years, we have been very aggressive with sidewalks, where we didn't do a whole lot in the 10 years prior to that because of the process that the city council used, where we'd have neighborhood meetings, let the neighbors vote on sidewalks. There's always some controversy with a sidewalk that somebody along the route wouldn't like it, and they would sort of be the loudest voice in the room, which would tend to stall those. About 7 years ago, the city council changed its philosophy and said that sidewalks are a community good, and that the city council will prioritize where sidewalks go and move forward with sidewalk projects. So that happened with the Domrick Drive sidewalk, which then went into the Choctaw Mohican sidewalks, and then now we're currently building several thousand linear feet of sidewalk in Domrick Hills where the sewer's going. So we're going to have those sidewalks done. Mohican sidewalk is still on schedule to be done this year, and that stretch that comes down Delray. So we'll have the main connectors done, especially in the Domrick Hills area, by getting Seneca done, getting Delray done, and getting that link down Mohican done. So we've been very aggressive with our sidewalk construction program. Sort of the question I have as we're looking at construction costs, and Jerry's putting revenue numbers together, that there might be some challenges to keep moving as aggressively with our sidewalk program. And I guess from a philosophical standpoint, I need to get some feedback from the city council. I'll just tell you the way I'm thinking is, if somebody doesn't have a sidewalk, they're generally not kicking the door down to get a sidewalk. We're putting sidewalks in where we think they need to be in, but they don't miss something they don't have right now. So if you don't have a sidewalk in front of your house, generally people aren't calling us saying, when's the sidewalks coming in? When are they coming in? So if we're going to be looking at delaying projects, I think this would be one of the funds that we would look at them to overall take a look at how we would balance the budget and balance our capital plans to free up funds for other projects as they potentially would come in more expensively. So just wanted to throw that out there to see how you felt about that, and because we have made a lot of improvements on the sidewalk front over the last 7 years.
Yeah, personally, I think we've done a lot of, like you said, a lot of great things with the sidewalks going forward, and we're getting to a place where continuing at that pace is going to inhibit a lot of the other improvements that we need to make. I'm willing to tap the brakes on sidewalk construction going forward.
I think there's a couple missing links out. I just look at the school stuff, and to me there's still a couple missing links around that I just would try to fix those where kids are going to and from the schools. I would keep prioritizing those and then maybe get less aggressive on the others. But I think there's still, Mark and I talked about these, there's still a few segments where I think kids are still kind of walking and have a natural path that aren't yet finished. So.
And the challenge to that is, I think that the city council's had this discussion too, is that as kids are moving up through elementary and middle school, and new kids are coming in different houses, you're trying to predict the pattern of where they're going to be this year, where they're not going to be next year. So you're trying to just, there's a logical approach that we've taken with the sidewalks on the estate side to try to get at least every other street done, and that Sequoia connection is an important connection.
Right. The Domrick Drive. Yeah. Finishing Domrick Drive, and then
finding a lot.
And then you're doing the Mohican, which is in the Delray. So those are the.
And that's why that Choctaw to Sequoia was there, right? That just sort of stopped, you took a right turn to Choctaw, and it gets a little more complicated as you go down Dominic Drive to tie into Sequoia.
Mark, and I don't know if this is an option, but you know, the street calming is that something after we pave? Is there a big financial cost difference? And I know there is a financial cost difference, just how big to if we said, all right, we're just going to pave this, you know, for the next couple of years, and then we'll come back in 3 or 4 years and then do the street calming. Is that an option?
That's absolutely an option. When we did the Northwest Area Traffic Study, a couple of the roads slated for potential traffic calming were Domerick Drive, part of Thistle, part of Arapahoe. So we haven't done the conceptuals yet on those, so we still don't know what the cost estimate would be, but traffic calming is something you can retrofit. It doesn't necessarily have to go along with a paving project. And the question then becomes, it's sort of the same thing that I've been talking to my department heads about when it comes to putting their budgets together. What are these wants or are they needs? And if they're needs, then we need to figure out how to fund them. If they're wants, they can be put off a little bit longer. If they're niceties that can put off a little bit longer, then we should probably be doing that in the current budgetary environment that we're in. So,
Agreed.
so nothing's ready for traffic calming right now in the streets that would be scheduled for traffic calming outside of obviously the Domerick Hills area. There wouldn't be anything ready to put pen to paper on right now anyway, but the roads also aren't ready for paving right now. So it's something we take a look at as we put the budget together to see where those priorities. Certainly some things will shift, especially now that we have the information with the Minnehaha Park Boardwalk, that can shift out. But we'll take a closer look at that as we're putting together with Kim to take a look at what makes sense there. Okay. Let's jump to Parks and Rec then. We're already there. Again, sort of on the heels of what we talked about, strategic planning based on utilization of facilities. I think we might want to take a look at how we're doing this. We also had a discussion on pickleball and how that might fit into the Parks and Rec capital budget. In 2025, you see the Sevilla Beach restroom budgeted for $200,000. That's the cost that we're getting from our engineers and our contractors to have a prefab restroom set in over there, the demo of that, site prep, and have a prefab restroom set in there. I guess the next question in 2026, we are proposing sort of a refresh of the community park building. If you've spent any time in there, that is sort of our showpiece park with our showpiece building there. It's showing its age. The bathrooms are sort of the same condition that our other bathrooms are in and rehabbing, so they certainly need a refresh. The cabinet work and the office area up front, again, showing their age. It's from a facility that's been open every day, all the time. It gets a lot of wear and tear, so we're looking to put some money in just to freshen that up. I think the bigger question might be on the Lake Sevilla Beach site improvements, which would be the boat launch or canoe kayak launch area and the pull-off. As you will probably remember, as we did the Parks and Rec master plan, this was really the last project in the line of projects after the Homer Hub bathrooms to be prioritized, and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board reprioritized those about 3 years ago. So this was the last one, and then you work your way back through the parks, making improvements to the playgrounds, through all of our other parks. So the question becomes, with that knowledge, on the heels of the recreation needs survey, where we saw where those priorities were, with the utilization we're seeing on the west side parks, does Sevilla Beach still rise to a priority? I guess is really the question. Is that a priority? Lake access is still a priority based upon the recreation needs, but based upon everything else we have going on, is lake access to Sevilla a a high priority. It's a nice lake, and lake access is important, but anybody that, it's a good, well, I guess, it's a good beginner lake to paddle on.
Yeah.
People aren't seeking out to paddle the width and breadth of the lake.
So, and I haven't said this bad there, I think, I mean, you have parking, what, 8 feet from the street? I mean, and then the lake's another 20 feet from there. So, I mean, it really is accessible compared to what it used to be. I mean, when I used to go to Fort Maitland, I'd have to walk a lot farther than that with my paddleboard and stuff. So, but I just wanted to say also, on the Homer Huff, I go by there a lot, and it does have a lot of kids out there. I think there's some kind of like home little thing that they have, like homeschool kind of thing, and they have events over there for it. So, just a question I want to throw out there is, knowing how that sun comes around on there, is there any way to put some trees that might even shade part of it?
You can always put the trees in. Obviously, the sunshades are.
The sunshade would be good.
That's
for
like, that's where we're going for.
Yeah.
Is because of some based upon some losses we've seen on the risk side of things, when those playgrounds are peaked and blazed in the sun. It's certainly not getting any cooler out right now. That
Right.
it seems to be the norm, not just for us, but for most local governments, that as you're retrofitting playgrounds, shade structures are going in so they can be used more year round. And
Yeah.
it keeps the children safe and also.
I was just thinking you put some trees wherever the sun comes in at an angle instead of
On the
more
south
over
side,
it.
south
Right,
west side,
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much use does that Sibilia bathroom get?
None, because nobody wants to go in there.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I mean,
All I know, all I can answer that is anecdotally, because of some time that I spent at Lake Stability when this project was coming up. I spent several evenings out there just observing, and there are a lot of walkers that walk around that lake that stop in that bathroom. It's like a plan.
and that, so with the 200,000, there's not I'm not just thinking of a use perspective, the Maitland Community Park bathrooms get
Oh, far more
use, and they're getting 1/4 the money. I mean, is there a way to reevaluate how much money that bathroom needs to get, and maybe
I think for a new bathroom, this is about as cheap as you're going to get, because it's a prefab. It's a pre-constructed. It's dropped in. We were surprised when the numbers came in as high as they did, because we were basing sort of our numbers on what we saw at Fort Maitland and put an escalator on them. They're coming in, not surprisingly, based upon the numbers I just showed you, higher than that for a new bathroom.
But does it need to be, I guess my question is, and I'm asking the question not with any kind of tilt to what the answer is that, does it need it, or could we rehab that building and rehab that bathroom and then allocate some of that money to the community park bathrooms and do those?
So gut it and start from.
I don't know what the gut is, but I'm not saying the level of I'm not presupposing anything. I'm just saying, is there a way to look at this and say, we don't need a new bathroom at 200,000, let's.
You can always take a look at it. We haven't really looked at it, because if you remember, a tree came down on it during Irma also, and clipped the edge of the roof. So if you're going to redoing it, if you're talking substantially, you're talking new roof and gutting it and putting it all back together again. And it's not the most appealing structure, regardless.
Right, but the prefabs aren't. I mean, we're not going.
Prefabs they're better looking. They've gotten better looking.
They're okay, but they're not. I mean, we're not going with an architectural design
No,
for a
sure.
prefab.
Definitely not.
So,
A little bit easier maintenance too.
what's that?
A little bit easier maintenance on prefabs. So we can certainly look at that, if that's a sort of direction we want to go. We can certainly take a look.
I would
at
just
that.
think that to spend 200,000 versus I just
The whole goal, I think Mike was getting to, is we're trying to save as much money as we can to
yeah.
go to.
And if we could kind of take that 200,000 and do Maitland Community Park and that bathroom, and then save the 50,000 and reallocate to it. I mean, I just think that if we're looking at spending money wise, I mean, we're doing what everybody's doing. The budgets come in, everybody's doing it in this environment. When costs go up, you've got to make choices. And so the question is the 200,000 for a new bathroom the choice we want to make? And if the answer is it's going to cost 190,000 to rehab, then to rehab the existing one, then that's one thing. If it's going to cost 100, you can save half the money, then maybe that's worth it. So I would look at it. That would be my thought.
So here you are, you see city council trying to do the best with your tax dollar, trying to be responsible with your money.
Is anyone, you looking for any kind of
Yeah, well, any,
consensus on that thought?
yeah,
Or at least support?
any direction is helpful. I mean, because I will put together, a capital budget that, once I have some more revenue figures to balance it out, to bring back to you in July, so we'll have a better feel for it then. We may be able to do both. I wouldn't hold out a whole lot of hope for that without staggering them over years. So the only reason the Civilian Beach restroom is there is because we've been planning it for the last 4 years, and so we've done all that groundwork, so we have those costs a bit more solid. Not to say we can't change directions, because we're getting new information all the time. I mean, I provided you guys some new information. It's just strategic planning on some of our facilities.
And on the lake access, we had somebody recently, I've not launched a kayak there or a paddleboard, but someone said that it was okay, they didn't have any issues with it. That's the last, I don't know who it was, so I don't know how many people are coming to you saying the kayak access on Lake Sebelia has to be approved. I don't know if that's
It's your typical lake access, your
I
wide.
tell you what, I prefer putting it at Homer Huff, to tell you the truth.
The water's a little bit deeper.
Yeah, you can just drag it down this, on the grass all the way down there, and it's easy peasy.
We're not going to fix that issue though with any kind of beach improvement.
What the thought was, you actually put structurally, so you put something in there to launch off of, because of the depth of the water.
You're talking about 300,000, if where it currently
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
So
You put a small dock launching facility in there.
I would think we just save ourselves the 300,000. I don't see any value to that. I mean, if you're going to drag a canoe or drag a kayak down there, you're already dragging it. You just drag it through the sand and get in the water. I don't think it's a real benefit to have a dock. Actually, it's harder to get from a dock to the water.
There are some challenges.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, that would be my.
They make videos of that. I think they plan to see it, it's something.
We don't want to be YouTube famous for that.
And as we go through, you don't see a whole lot of funding here, what we have from the general fund, because we're not pre-anticipating anything coming into the impact fee fund, Fund 65. If that happens, that gives us more flexibility, obviously. If more funds come in, we can always come back and make adjustments to the budget. The one thing that's not included in this 5-year plan, although we did have some discussion at strategic planning, was pickleball and potential for converting the one court at Minnehaha to permanent facilities. So that would be something, if that was something you would like to see in the 2025 budget, it would be not a big number, we're talking $50,000, but put it in, this would be the place to.
Yeah, I think you get a lot more bang for your buck on that. If you're just gonna, if you're gonna end up with 2 or 4 pickleball courts for $50,000, they get consistent use. I mean, it is, as we said, it's kind of a niche community, but they, lots of our uses are niche communities. So I guess I'd like to see it put in the 25 budget.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was consistent with the Parks and Recs needs survey.
Okay. As we move out in 27, that's where we budgeted for park signage improvements. You may not notice that our signage is inconsistent and it's a little bit old, so we're looking to put together a consistent signage package for our park, and then started getting new signage up. So that was scheduled for 2027. Of course, all this gets.
Well, the thing is also, that's 2027, so next year, if, we're looking at a budget and something needs to be changed, like, all right, there we go, we took that out.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and then playground replacements, we start working through the parks and playground replacements. I mean, you could just, pick off the ones that.
Mark, talking about signage, the new signage that we're gonna be putting around town, we already budgeted for that, that's already
That's in
paid
progress.
for, we're good. All right, great, because I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, and that's what we would be, from a branding and from a consistency standpoint, we'd be looking to echo the themes of those gateway signage in our parks. That's sort of been the concept.
Can we take down one bike route sign for every new sign that goes up? Bike route 6, bike route 67, bike route 66A.
I can try to follow those ones. The trail to nowhere.
In my view, it's just clutter. Get rid of them.
Like Route 66.
And so now they're at 29 is the hardscape, which is benches. Benches are starting to show some age out in the community park. We are doing some replacement, but a lot of them will be at the end of their useful life by the end of our 5-year plan. So, all right, so we can make some adjustments to our park and rec 5-year CIP as we bring that back and do a little more research on what those costs are going to be and where the priorities, at least for the bathrooms, are the Sevilla versus the community park bathrooms, and refurbing that building a little bit on the interior.
Yeah, and just if you want opinions, I second Mike's opinion about the bathrooms.
Okay. Right. As I obviously I'll need to talk to Jay a little bit more about it, and we can talk more about it in July as I put this together. Would there be any appetite for just removing the Sevilla bathroom? And just,
I mean, I guess it
Is that-
goes
look at the
back to the
cost.
original question, is like how often they get used, and if it really isn't just.
I think back to your point, Mark, there's a lot of people that walk
Yeah,
around there,
walk that
and
way.
so I think, yeah, that's I would put that under a need.
It's a known route between Sevilla and Catherine that people will go from Lake Lily Park, around Lake Catherine, around Lake Sevilla as a sort of a standard route.
So I've come to the understanding that, we're talking about sidewalks. If the sidewalk is on the lake side, everybody will walk on the sidewalk. But if it's off to the house side, everybody's in the street. They want to be attracted to the water, like a magnet or something. It's kind of weird.
All right, as we jump into facilities, you'll see in 2025 we're proposing to budget another $200,000 for stabilization. That's the stabilization of the walls that we have going on this year. We have money budgeted this year for that. We're getting pricing to take care of the chapel right now, so we'll have a good idea of the scale of that, because that's going to be the most complicated of the projects. But it's going to be an ongoing project to stabilize that, because based upon the geotechnical work we've done, it's not stable. And you can see that as the walls are shifting and cracking, and we don't want any of the artwork to be damaged within that facility. So we'll have that in 25 and 26. And then the biggie in 26 is the library in Quinstrong Park at $18 million. So I think that's a foregone conclusion. I don't think anybody's going to be moving that around. So and I think it's important to point out too, from a park improvement standpoint, we're getting a park out of this too. Quinstrong is basically going to be a new park. It's one of our underutilized facilities, so it's not like we're not investing in the parks on that front. So, and then in 27, what we've done in the last capital improvements plan, we had Public Works office expansion design, a much higher priority. I believe it was scheduled to design in 2025 next year. However, with the fact that the referendum passed and the library is going to be a higher priority, we just don't have the capacity to attempt to do 2 design vertical construction projects simultaneously. So by default, that would drop off till after the library is done. Public Works you're kind of on top of each other out there, but they're managed to make it work and utilize some unutilized spaces, but we still have storage issues, and we're still 13, 14 employees down out there, maybe 15 now. So So we're not even at full staff, and everybody's kind of on top of each other. So we by necessity, we've had to push that out, so we'll have to have continued discussion on that over the years to see how that actually works out. And then there's the actual construction in 28 if we do the design in 27. 29, we're looking at CD library, which is Clara Domerick Library. We're trying to differentiate between old library and new library, so we decided just to call that the Clara Domerick Library for the old library. So we've put that as a placeholder to obviously sometime between now and then we're going to be talking about use of that facility, and then obviously the design and construction on that will be dictated by the use of whatever the city council decides that's going to be happening. And we've always sort of held out there some money for a parking garage, which sort of sits in year 5. It's sat in year 5 for the last 10 years, so that's based upon a potential public-private partnership. So as Independence Lane is done to the north, properties can be put together, or if the church and SunTrust lots would like to partner with us to do a larger scale development, there would be potential for a public-private partnership, but as you can see, it would be developer-driven. So it just sort of sits there. If there's a deal to be made, we understand that parking is going to be an issue, and there's a potential for that, primarily on the north lot. So, any questions on facilities?
Does scheduling the library for construction in 26, so that's, what is it, 18 months from now?
Yeah.
And we're thinking the design might be done in 12?
Yeah, 12 to 18. We'll have a better feel for that once we get that proposal in, which should be the first meeting in June.
So if we're done in 12, and you wanted to start construction right thereafter, if you've not budgeted money until fiscal 26, can you accelerate that?
Oh, yeah. That's just a matter of pulling everybody together, financials, bond council, and getting the money. The voters have spoken. The money will be available.
Right, but I think on that though, we have to just look at strategically how much of the $4 million of the ARPA money do you spend before you start going out for bonds, right? I mean, on the design stuff, because obviously the bonds are more expensive. Presumably, if interest, and I don't want to speculate, but if interest rates are going to go down, you want to hold off going to get that money if you can.
Yeah. What we were planning on doing, and since we have the ARPA money there, we're budgeting for design out of that ARPA money this year. So when HBM comes forward with their proposal in June, we'd be looking to transfer that money out of fund balance and to fund that design piece.
So even though that 18 million is flagged at 26, some of that's going to start to get spent potentially starting in June.
Any other questions? Okay, if we jump to stormwater. Obviously, this is a sort of a lessons learned from a stormwater standpoint based upon the effects of Hurricane Ian. We're taking a look at the Domerick Drive culvert bridge situation there. So you see construction money there. We've applied for some state money that we have not heard on, some allocation from the legislature that we haven't heard on how that's going to come out. But I think once the feasibility analysis is done, it'll give us some direction on what we need to do there to alleviate that flooding. And that's sort of, back to the two-phase. We have flooding issues there too, but the more important thing is flooding issue gets in lift station 2, which makes it a high priority to work to see how and whether that gets fixed, whether it's relocation of that lift station in conjunction with improvements to the bridge. The bridge is the only piece of infrastructure right now with that box culvert under it, so it probably needs to be replaced anyway. So we're going to be going through that exercise. It makes sense to do something with capacity. That's sort of a choke point there. So we're taking a look at all those things, but we're assuming that some stormwater funds would be expended to make those improvements. Going to be a complicated project regardless, because that's the only way in and out of that neighborhood. So from getting keeping traffic moving, maintenance of traffic. That'll be a complicated project, but it's certainly risen to the level of a high priority project. You also see the stormwater portion of Keller Road included in 2025 out of the stormwater fund, so that's that $900,000. So that's the third piece of the Keller Road improvements with the reconstruction of the sidewalk and the stormwater improvements. If you take a look at 26, we'd be looking at moving forward on the North Thistle Lane drainage improvements, which is the flooding problems we have right there at the curve in Thistle Lane, right by the entrance to the middle school, to get that piped and push it down Thistle a little bit further up to the north. They also have some small stormwater improvements on Sandspur. There's not a lot of places to put water on Sandspur, quite frankly. When it was built, it wasn't designed with drainage in mind. It's very flat out there, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll have some of those worked into to take care of some spot flooding issues. Then we'll do our stormwater Lakes Master Plan update to account for everything we've done and put together projects after that. We already think that Park Lake is a potential for a project, that we've been talking about that. Now acquired the property, so we can do a stormwater retention pond, so that will improve the water quality in Park Lake, which is one of our most impaired water bodies. And then in 27, we're looking at the north wind, west wind drainage improvements. So that's going to be one of those big projects that we're actually putting together an interim solution right now to help the flooding that we experienced down there, the daily flooding, and then the bigger flooding that came with Hurricane Ian. This would be the permanent fix to that, as permanent as you can get. You got to understand that they're all, the road's in the floodplain, so it's a low area, but something that would be a more permanent solution than we have there, and a more reliable solution than what we have there right now. And 2028, Lake Minnehaha would probably be next on the water quality improvements, because it's again one of our more impaired lakes. And when I say that, don't get me wrong, our lake water quality is good and improving. We've been doing a really good job, and I think I mention every year, and I'll mention it again this year during budget time. The biggest thing we can do to improve lake water quality is to catch the stuff before it even gets to the lake. So our street sweeping program, our maintenance programs, keeping the pipes clean before it gets to the lake is the most important thing we can possibly do for water quality.
Fertilizer. Fertilizer.
Enforcing, a lot of enforcement. So a lot of that. The operational side of it is where we really can see big improvements in improving the water quality there. But there are still structural improvements that can be made. So you see the Park Lake construction there, and then go into Minnehaha construction. It's more of a typical design, build, design 1 year, build the next year. The system is more traditional in a 5-year capital plan. So that's where we're going to be going. We'll be bringing you updates as we work through some of those projects this fiscal year. On the water and sewer sides, just want to make a note as I go through these. You're going to see some big numbers here in these next two slides. What we're going to have to do is do some level of borrowing to make these improvements. Much like we did with Domrick Hills, we don't have cash on hand to do big projects like this, so it's either going to be state revolving fund, grants, combinations to make some of these water and sewer improvements happen. So there will be some borrowing. Our rate structure did anticipate some of that borrowing. So that was included in the rate structure that you adopted last year. So jumping into 2025, we're looking at 1792.
We flip it to that one.
It's water. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The biggest project we have for next year is the 1792 water line replacement. We already do have an SRF loan commitment for that, so that's where that $10 million is coming from. We have made some changes from last year from a strategic standpoint within our water fund as far as the water plant design and upgrades go. To get a better feel for where our costs are going to be, instead of doing the plant design and then construction, then plant design, then construction, then plant design, then construction through the next 6 years, we want to push forward the water plant number 4 and number 6 designs. That's the Domerick Hills plant and the plant that's at the Public Works Yard. So we can get those designs under our belt because they're basically evergreen, and that will give us a scale of magnitude on cost for those two, since those will be the first two out of the gate before we have to take down Plant 5 and reconstruct it. So we're proposing to do those design projects next fiscal year, so we can at least have a decent estimate of where those costs are going to be and how to budget for those as we do the Plant 4 and 6 construction. We are required to update our consumptive use permit, so the consumptive use permit and the water master plan update sort of go hand in hand for next fiscal year. And then you can see how water plant 6 would then fall into 26. Water plant 6, as you all know, is our workhorse plant. That's the plant that pushes them all. So, and plants 4 and 5 or smaller plants to provide pressure and obviously a water source to the more remote areas. But 6 is our workhorse. We want to get that running at peak performance in 26 as we work on Plant 4 and then ultimately have to take down Plant 5 for the reconstruction. We have a water line replacement and upgrade also included in 26. We're going to be getting on that. The 1792 line replacement is part of that program. So we'll just be going back to our water master plan, looking at our maintenance schedule to see where it makes most sense and where our lines are breaking the most to do water line replacement. Rest assured, there's no shortage. We have plenty of those. In 27, that's when we do the design for Plant 5 and the rehab of 4. And then 28 is when we would do the reconstruction of water plant number 5. And then after that, at least our production side should be in tip-top condition. So then we'll be able to focus as we move forward to getting our line system in tip-top condition while we're doing all of this. So that'd be in more of a 10-year CIP than this 5-year CIP. So, any questions on the water side of it? If not, I'll jump into sewer, which is hear a lot of the same thing. We have the in 2025. You jump to sewer. You have the North Keller Road gravity sewer design. That's taking us up to the plant. That is actually to increase capacity in that line. We've reached 85% capacity in the line, which requires us to start doing redesign and oversizing that. What that also does is frees up capacity for our future sewer connections for getting people from septic to sewer, so it frees up line capacity there so we can take more flows over to the city of Altamont. Then you have our lift station 17 force main rehab, at least the design piece of that. That's the force main that goes down Wymore Road and ties into Kennedy. That's one of our older lines. We're having some maintenance issues with that, so that line just needs to be replaced. So we'll do that design next year. And then the force main in 26, we'll do the force main construction, so we'll be replacing that line in 26. That same year, we'll be required to do our master plan update to lay out everything we've done and where our priorities are for the next 5 to 10 years. We're showing SCADA upgrades in 2027 right now. Kim's working with Andy and IT to work out what the best approach is going to be to our SCADA system, which is our systems that communicate with our lift stations, that communicate back to our operators to let them know when something's not going well. So we're working on that to have that prepared to be rolled out in 2027. Then you'll see in 27, this will be it says design, it's actually construction of Keller Road gravity sewer for that capacity increase. And then we're continuing our lift station rehabs. Lift station 13, 13A are the Park Lake lift stations that we experienced some issues with during EN because they're lower areas. Sort of the downside. You put your lift stations in lower areas, which makes them more susceptible to issues. So we were looking at upgrading those, potentially hardening them a little bit to avoid those problems in the future. And then we have the construction of those. And then with the Mechanic Street road construction, it makes sense that a sewer line would go down there at that point in time. So we have a design, while we're doing the road design, we'll be funding the sewer design that goes down there. They're already on water, so just to be getting a sewer line down there to serve those residents, and then construction to coincide with the construction of the stormwater and roadway improvements in 29. So, any questions on sewer? The last piece of it is that we do have some capital purchases and operating capital that we can't lose sight of. We're looking at replacement of fire truck, which is the tower truck too, so we need some variety of a ladder truck. Right now, those costs are running $1.8 to $2.2 million. When we were putting our budgets together, we were anticipating maybe $1.4 million on the high side, so we're $4 to $6 million under that right now. Chief Morton and I were having a discussion today about what our options are there, but you can see that lead time, 3 to 3.5 years for a ladder truck. So if we're going to be moving forward on that, we need to move forward this next budget year. So as Chief and I and his team over there, they're looking at options, get together. We'll be coming back with a recommendation on that, how that comes out of this year's budget. And then we have our other capital, which will be our public works vehicle replacements, police vehicle replacements, and our capital maintenance and repair. And as we've been going over that with Kim and Chris out of Public Works, there's a spreadsheet as long as my arm of capital maintenance projects that they have that we're prioritizing. So there's certainly no shortage of projects that are sitting out there. It's just we have to figure out what the priorities are to fund them. So just to sort of lay that on the horizon, that those things are out there, and then we'll be working through that as we put together our budget. So, any questions overall? It's kind of dry stuff, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's important.
I brought coffee, I'm okay.
So we'll take a closer look at the Parks and Rec side of things, take a look at how the Lake Sibilia bathroom and the Maitland Community Park bathroom, how those would stack up. I can certainly get with Jay on that. And sounds like for the most part, the Lake Sibilia beach improvements, probably just put a pin in that for the time being as we take a look at some other priorities and then work pickleball into 2025 budget. Okay? That's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you, Mark, for that, and walking us through that. And I think that concludes our discussions for the evening. With the reports, Mr. City Manager, do you have any reports?
Very quickly, we have Maitland Community Cleanup from 9 to 11 this Saturday, the 18th, at Lake Sibilia Beach. So get out there if you want to do some cleanup out there in that basin. We're also partnering with the Winter Park Health Foundation to present a new speaker series, 6 p.m. Tuesdays at the Maitland Community Park. Classes are going to be on sort of outdoor activities, gardening, trees, plant identification. They'll be May 21st, 28th, and June 4th as part of their outreach program. We'll also host a touch truck event from 9 to 1, Sunday, June 9th on Independence Square here to coincide with the farmers market. We'll have vehicles from Public Works. Kim's sort of taking the lead on this, obviously with the help of Robert to get everything together. But we'll have Public Works trucks, police and fire vehicles out there, games, prizes. So it'll be a nice addition to the farmers market that Sunday morning. If you haven't seen through our communication channels yet, the warnings have gone up on Fort Maitland hours. Those are changing, so the reader boards are up there. We have signs in the park. Permanent signage is going up. Jay's crew, as the closing crew, as they're going there, they're seeing cars parked there as they're closing the bathroom. We have little flyers to drop in the windshields to let them know where what the new hours are going to be. That it will be locked at night. Jay's also sending out emails to all the annual boat pass owners so they can have forewarning that it's going to be happening. So we're doing the best we can to get the word out.
Do people park overnight out there?
They have parked overnight out there, yes.
I mean, I thought the purpose really was going to cut down on the Dog Island nighttime traffic, but there are people who just like
There were people that posted like on the Facebook thing. I saw
Yeah.
fisher people.
Anglers.
Anglers, yes.
There was a launch parked overnight there a few weeks ago.
But their question was actually, it was, from what I read, was just if they could leave the car there, which
They
the
can,
post
for
answered
a price.
the post answered that question honestly,
Yeah.
but which was that they would be ticketed, but they were, they weren't intending to come back like the Dog Island party goers might be. But.
Yeah.
Just consider it a valet cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also have the Juneteenth event at Lake Lily on June 22nd and 23rd. So that'll be a 2-day event. It was a 1-day event last year. They're expanding it to 2 days this year. So that's certainly promising. And Kim mentioned the Public Works Rodeo next Wednesday from 8 to 2. If you have some time, stop on out. I'd love to have you out there.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, Mayor, you had asked that I come prepared with legislative updates, so I've got an hour's worth, and I'm happy to share. Or you can take the fact that I sent you the legislative report from the Florida League of Cities by email earlier today. If you haven't checked your city email, that's in there. It's comprehensive. It covers everything that passed and that didn't. But because I still felt like that was sort of cheating, I have 5 bills summarized. I can go through in a couple minutes if you want to bear with me. I think they're the most important ones, the ones you must be interested in. HB 2267, which is, these are all passed. I don't know if all of them have been signed by the governor yet, but there's no expectation that they won't be.
Just 267?
267 is it's a revision of the residential building permits law. It puts in specific timelines from the date of application to the time they must be approved, and provides penalties where if it's not approved by a certain period of time without a good excuse, the fees are reduced 10% each business day that the deadline is not met. So you're significantly incentivized to issue building permits for residences on time. Senate Bill 280, vacation rentals. For a long time it has been the law that we only can use the bills that we have, or the laws that we had on the books when short-term rentals became preempted, and we couldn't change them. The legislature in its generosity has said we now can change them so long as we're changing them to make them less restrictive. So if we don't mind making our short-term rentals less restrictive, we can do that without losing the grandfathering effect of what we have. So good news there. I know you all are excited about that. Cybersecurity incident liability, and let me start by saying, given the experience I recently had in Jack's Beach, and you've read about it in St. Cloud and other cities, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So this is actually a good thing. If we can show substantial compliance with 282.3185, which supplies security training standards, notification protocols and such, then we have a defense and we're exempt from liability similar to sovereign immunity for any suits that would follow for the revealing of people's information due to a cybersecurity event. Also, as an aside, I would tell you that even currently, we are exempt from providing what otherwise would be considered public records material about those events. And so, using Jack's Beach example, when we were asked about the event, we would simply say we've suffered an event, but we would not provide information that would help our tormentors continue to torment us. And that's a good thing. So you don't have to say, how long have you been down, what machines are affected, any of that stuff that you would have potentially documented as you're trying to sort through the mess, but you don't have to provide it to a desiring and interested public or media.
What was the bill number on that?
The cybersecurity incident liability is House Bill 473. A joint bill 7017 is the annual adjustment for homestead exemption values, and what that does is it allows for your homestead exemption, the second one that was passed. It proposes a constitutional amendment which will be on the general election ballot, which if it passed will allow the homestead exemption to go up with inflation. And it's tied to the consumer price index. So that'll be on the ballot in November, and if it passes, then, which everything having to do with homestead exemption seems to pass, so I'd say that's a high likelihood it will. It will mean that your exemption, you won't know how it's going to affect your taxes in the city or your individual taxes, but at January 1, that number is going to be set based on whether there's been an increase in inflation, and it's going to be tied to the consumer price index. So that's 7017. And then last but not least, affordable housing. The Live Local Act passed its much anticipated glitch bill. The most significant thing for our purposes there's some little stuff it's significant, but it's not stuff that you need to hear about here. But they revised information about what constitutes the multi-family middle market ad valorem tax exemption, and allocates $100 million in funds to the Florida Housing Finance Corporation for Hometown Hero program, providing down payment assistance for first-time home buyers meeting certain income thresholds. And so that is my legislative update, supplemented by what I sent you from the League of Cities, which is glossy and pretty and all printed up special, so it's much nicer than mine.
Okay. Well, thank you, Cliff. Anybody else? Any?
My son couldn't go, that's why I'm here with you. My one son was receiving about 7 awards tonight at Millway. He made 8 honor roll and excelled in a lot of things, so.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, he fell ill this morning and couldn't make the award ceremony, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anything? Nope. Lori? Vince? Nope. Okay. All right, then we stand adjourned.